Good morning. Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad to see a lot of familiar names who have joined us today. You're most welcome. Glad you could all join us this fine Wednesday morning. Apologies for starting a couple of minutes late. Usually this ends up happening when we do end up having fundamentals that comes out at 9. That's a Frankfurt market open. And when that happens, we do end up needing to sometimes changing some things in the watch list, changing some levels that we already had, and just organizing things for you. So apologies for that. So let's jump straight into it. So hello everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Mitch Kaniaro. For those who are new, I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, during these webinars, the Afriforex team analyzes the market early in the morning. We identify what trading opportunities we will be looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So as usual, we do have the Afriforex team in the back office. So John is there right now. So he'll be here to assist you in whatever questions or queries you might have. So feel free to ask those questions either in the Q&A section or in the chat box, and John will be there to respond to you. But remember, I will still be addressing all the questions that are on the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. So let's jump straight into it. So as usual, we'll start off with our watch list and see whether or not there have actually been any changes. And they have been. So yesterday, our bias was looking for selling opportunities on the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, as well as the Swiss franc. And we're looking to mix and match these three pairs with the pairs on the buy side. So you can see today, we have the New Zealand dollar as well as the Swiss franc still on the sell side. However, the Canadian dollar has moved to the sell side today. And at the same time, the Australian dollar, which we did have for a sell yesterday, has moved to the buy side. So this is going to be our watch list for today. But don't worry about this, or at least taking this note right now. I'll keep on referring back to this as the webinar is going on. So as usual, we'll have a look at the pairs that we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today before we do end up having a look at a few screenshots that we did manage to end up getting. Then we will focus on today's pairs. So let's start off with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Now, yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities on this. Unfortunately, no sells really worked out. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out, ideally either wanting a breach to the downside or a pullback coming in. But you can see how many probes ended up happening. The market attempting to break to the downside, kept on coming up. It's just playing around, actually within some sort of small range, just bouncing between these levels. However, the fundamentals, or at least the bias for the Australian dollar, has switched. You can even see some Australian dollar strength attempting to come in. So unfortunately for us, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. Now, the next pair we did have for review, at least had yesterday and as well as for review, is the British pound against the Australian dollar. Similar situation. The Australian dollar pairs did not really perform anywhere. Can see a similar situation with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Price attempting to break this area to the upside, just kept on probing. Even when it ended up going to the upside, remember I had pointed out, watch out for this area, the highest point where the sellers had reached. And you can see the rejection that happened. And you can see every time the price went to the upside, never really holding above. So this time it attempted to do that, but came straight back in. And you can get confirmation that the fact that the price is actually holding below. And you can see a bit of that Australian dollar strength coming in. And that's the reason why, unfortunately for us, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list. Now, next pair we did have was the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, this pair did end up starting to work, or at least there was a small movement that ended up happening at around 10 o'clock. Not necessarily the biggest pullback that we had wanted to see. You can see the price attempted to come down, but we're not able to break this low to the downside. You can see the price kept on holding within that area. The price at 3 o'clock was within the seller's area, but no big boy actually showed themselves. Once the price broke to the upside, you can clearly see it has been holding above. Similar situation to today during the Asian session, and that Australian dollar strength that's coming in. So unfortunately for us, this is a pair that we're not going to be focusing on today. Now, moving on to the next pair that we did have yesterday, that we're not going to be looking at today, is the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias yesterday was to look for selling opportunities. Now, the sells did look as if they worked out a bit during the Asian session. During the London session, we got a pullback. Wanted to see what kind of reaction happened within this particular area. Some sellers attempted to come down, but hardly any activity. Even you can see once the US big boys came in, even the size of the candles were not necessarily that big. Hardly any activity. The price was still holding within this particular area. But you can see once it broke to the upside, definitely it seemed as if it was trying to incite a number of people to look for the buys. But during the Asian session, remember we're dealing here with the New Zealand dollar as well. ends up being a lot active during the Asian session, and you can see that's when the price actually came to the downside. So this one would have been a bit difficult to get, but you can clearly see the New Zealand dollar is showing a lot of weakness. They did end up reducing the interest rates, and you can clearly see that weakness coming in this pair. So unfortunately, even though we can see the price going down, the fact that it's matched with the Canadian dollar could end up giving us issues today. And that's the reason why we're not going to be focusing on this pair today. Now, moving on to the next currency pair we did have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, this currency pair, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. And remember, when the price was, at least when we were discussing this market yesterday, price looked as if it was all the way down at the bottom here, and it looked as if it had fallen off our watch list. But remember, the game plan was waiting for the price to actually come back in and hold above. And you can see from 10 o'clock, that's actually when the market started coming to the upside. We're still off the watch list until we got the price coming back in and holding above. You can see if you did not get the trade within that area, you can see once the price went to the upside on the pullback, when the price came in, the price was actually bouncing, confirming that the price is actually holding above here. And you can see that was at 430. But you can see the buyers have attempted to come up. So if you didn't manage to grab a buy, you can clearly see the price going to the upside. But the sellers area that seems to be reacting from here still seems to be giving issues. And based on the fact that the Canadian dollar and the Swiss franc are both on the same side today, chances are we could actually find this market just ranging between these two levels. So for that reason, this pair is not going to be on our watch list for today. So moving on to the next currency pair we had the euro against the Australian dollar. Now, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out. Now, it did end up pulling back during the London session, because you can see it attempted to break to the upside, but it came straight back in, and on the pullback, it confirmed that it was actually holding below. Unfortunately, if you were looking for a counter trade, I guess that would have worked out, because you can see the price was back within the seller's area at 430, and you can see from then on, the price did manage to come down, still holding within this same area. And you can see how many times it's actually even attempted to break this area to the downside, but you can see that's based on the fact that the Australian dollar is showing a lot of strength, and that's the reason why you can see this push. But the fact that the euro is also trying to show strength, you'll find such a mess actually happening, because both pairs are fighting to go on different directions. And that's the reason why you'll find the market actually ranging. It's a push and pull situation. So unfortunately for us, this pair is not on our watch list for today. So before we do jump on to the pairs that we're going to be looking at today, let's end up having a look at a few screenshots that we did manage to get. We get quite a few. So we'll start off here with Alice. Alice, you did manage to grab a very nice buying opportunity on the US dollar against the Swiss franc. Very nice buy right there at the bottom. You can see the price already coming up in your favor. Sorry, excuse me. And your stop loss is already above your entry. So very, very good job for this trade. I did also grab a buy on this, and we did end up discussing it with the Afriforex sniper group, but very, very good job on this trade, Alice. Keep up the good work that you're doing. So also next, we get Dan. That Bicket, you did manage to grab a nice buying opportunity on the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Very nice buy right there at the bottom. You can see the price really did go up in your favor. You can see you've already closed your trade right there at the top. In fact, it seems that, yeah, you've managed to close the whole trade right there at the top. So very, very good job on this trade, Dan Bicket. You know, you're really a pro on the charts, and you did end up seeming like you were on a roll yesterday, because you did end up grabbing another buying opportunity right here on the US dollar against the Swiss franc. It's the pair that we were discussing yesterday in the snipers group, because you are part of the team. But happy to see you also grab that buying opportunity and see the price going up in your favor. So very well done on that trade. Similar situation, we also grabbed the British pound against the Swiss franc. Similar trade, I'm guessing, with the US dollar against the Swiss franc, since there was correlation there. You can see you got the buy right there, price coming up in your favor, and you have already managed the trade, making your stop loss towards your entry point. So very, very good job on that trade, Dan. And last but not least, you did end up grabbing, it seems that you took advantage of the New Zealand dollar and the Swiss franc, but happy to see you grabbed a very, very nice buy here on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. Price has really already made a new high, so very well done. And you can see your stop loss already below your entry, but I do end up hoping you have managed some of your trade on this pairs. But still, since we know that the New Zealand dollar showed a lot of weakness, very good job on this pair. So next, we also did get Ivy. Ivy, you did manage to grab a very nice buying opportunity on the US dollar against the Swiss franc. Seems very many people identified this currency pair. So very nice buy right there. And you can clearly see it was based on the pullback. Very nice buy, the price going already up in your favor. But by this time, you can be able to move your stop loss to break even. The reason why we do that is because you don't necessarily want a trade that's winning to actually end up turning into a loser. That happens many times. You'll be surprised. So always try and make sure you manage your trade, make it a risk-free trade. So ideally, the only thing that can happen is either you make money or you don't lose money, which is a good option to have. So keep up the good work, Ivy Wanyama. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of your screenshots as well. So also next, we did get Steve Canams. You did manage to grab a very nice selling opportunity on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Seems you grabbed very many sales right there at the top, as on the pullback, taking advantage of this move to the downside. Price coming down in your favor. I'm seeing it's already close to your take profit, but you have already managed your trade, your stop losses, and all the trades are below your entry point. So in fact, you've actually secured some good profit there. So very, very well done on this trade, Steve. And you did grab the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. It seems you took advantage of that Australian dollar weakness as it's coming in. But today, since we're looking for Australian dollar strength, at least the fact that you're managing your trade within this buyer's area, very, very well done. So keep up the good work, Steve. I'm happy to see your screenshots here as well. So thank you all for everyone who managed to send in your screenshot. Really do appreciate it. Remember, if you do manage to take any setups based on things that we do share here, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are there in the chat box. So let's jump straight into today's pairs. So we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the buy side. Do the same thing with the Swiss franc as well as the Canadian dollar before we do have a look at the indices. Then we'll move on to gold and silver. So we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Now you can see yesterday, our bias on this currency pair was to look for selling opportunities. Seems nothing much happened yesterday night, or at least yesterday during the day. As you can see, there was a bit of activity during the Asian session, but during the US and London session, you can see from 10 o'clock, the price was just ranging, holding within these levels. No pullback and no breach that ended up coming in until later on. You can see this was around 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. at night, where we did end up getting a pullback coming back towards the area that we had pointed out. You can see this is the area that we had yesterday, ideally waiting to see if we could end up getting a pullback towards the seller's area. And you can see that's exactly what the price did. Price managed to get towards this location, then the market actually ended up moving in line with the fundamentals that did end up coming out earlier in the morning. You can see the price really did come to the downside. If you did miss that trade, you can see there was a pullback right there. However, today, the bias here is definitely still going to be looking for selling opportunities. We're not going to jump in on our selling opportunity just yet. Remember, the main thing we need is actually a pullback coming in. Apologies for this. So the main thing we'll need is a pullback coming in to one of these three areas. So these are three areas of interest that we will definitely be looking at. Right now, the fact that the price has come down, we need a pullback, and potentially that's what could actually come in right now. So the game plan, at least for me right now, would be to wait, see how the price would end up coming in within this area. Do see the price actually holding within this location, could end up looking for a very nice selling opportunity there. But be aware, the fact that the New Zealand dollar is definitely showing us a lot of weakness. We do see the price actually able to break this area to the downside. Let's wait to see if we can end up getting a pullback. The price ends up reaching and holding below within this particular area. We could definitely end up finding a nice selling opportunity. And be aware of the times, 10, 3, and 4:30. That's when, if you find the prices within these areas at those specific times, it does end up increasing your probability of the trade working out. So just watch out for that on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So moving on to the next New Zealand dollar pair, we have the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. Guess is the trade done? You didn't manage to get early in the morning. Obviously, you did end up taking advantage of that, but you can see the game plan yesterday. Wanted to see whether or not we could end up grabbing those selling opportunities. Sorry, the buying opportunities on this pair. The price ended up giving us a breach to the upside, and it did end up looking as if it was holding above, but not necessarily that strong. At 4:30 or so, that was when the price was at the highest point, when we actually started getting a pullback, and the price was able to come all the way down. You can see the area that we did end up having yesterday was within this particular location where we wanted to see the price coming down lower. It actually ended up doing exactly that, although it did end up doing it during the Asian session. So ended up doing that during the Asian session before the price has actually gone to the upside. So our game plan is definitely going to be looking for buying opportunities on this. Similar story with the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. We need a pullback to come in, and potentially that's what could come in right now. So we'll wait to see how this price ends up coming down within this particular support and resistance area that was just breached. So the fact that is the price potentially has to pull back within that location. But if the buyers are very strong and the price is not able to come down here, or if it does come down here and you miss it, can end up waiting. Once the price is able to break this area to the upside, and remember when I say a break, the break includes the hold to the upside. So once you're able to see that, we can definitely end up looking for a buying opportunity on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. But for right now, let's wait to see. We can clearly see there's a lot of correlation coming in with these New Zealand dollar pairs. So if one starts pulling back, chances are the rest of them will as well. So moving on to the next pair that we did have and we're going to be looking at today is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias yesterday was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today, but similar situation with most of these New Zealand dollar pairs. They did not necessarily give us any movements really yesterday. We were expecting either the sell to come down, but nothing really much happened. The pullback took a lot longer. It seems like it took the whole day, both the London as well as the US session, to give us a pullback back towards the area that we had pointed out. And you can see once the price ended up giving us a very nice probe, and the price held below. In fact, it looks exactly as we had drawn right here. So this is the game plan. And ideally, that's the reason why we keep on drawing such illustrations. But ideally, those who have done the AMP class will know exactly what we're looking at within these areas. But overall, bias is definitely still going to be looking for selling opportunities. So the main seller is still at the top here. However, we have adjusted the level slightly, especially the bottom level. That's mainly because it seems that the price seems to be bouncing within a certain support and resistance area that's also visible on a much higher time frame. So definitely we will be watching out for this location. But for right now, you can't even see how the buyers have come in. The way the buyers have come in with such aggression, that means no selling opportunity just yet, but it means that we are potentially going to end up getting a better price. So hopefully we get the price approaching this particular support and resistance area for us to look for a sell. We could potentially end up entering some sort of range before we're able to get the price coming down lower. But if we do end up seeing the price breaking this area to the downside, remember, we want the price to hold below before we're able to look for selling opportunities on the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So hope the game plan is clear on what we're looking at doing on the New Zealand dollar against the yen. So as we move on to the next pair we did have, and we're going to be looking at today, it's the euro against the New Zealand dollar. You can see the story is pretty much the same. So that correlation really does end up helping to also figure out when to take your trade and when not to. So yesterday, wanted to see the price breaking and holding above. It attempted the first time. The next time it went to the upside. It looks as if it had broken above, but when it came back, it never held above. As you can see, the price just came back in and was actually holding below. And this was during the US session. You can see that's when the pullback did end up coming in. Price ended up coming back towards our main area that we did end up having, gave us some sort of probe. Price came back up and was holding above. Similar story with all these New Zealand dollar pairs. When the interest rate news did end up coming out, that's when the prices actually ended up taking off to the upside. So today, the buyers is definitely going to still be looking for buying opportunities on this pair. Similar story, the buyers who started this push are all the way down here. So as long as we're holding above this area, we're definitely still going to be looking for buying opportunities. The main thing we want right now is a pullback to come in. We've already tested this area. So if this price is not necessarily good enough, we might need to maybe try and come down a bit lower before maybe we end up actually probing within that area. Maybe it needs to incite a few more people to actually start looking for sales before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. However, if it has, or at least if this price is actually good enough, and we do see the price breaking this area to the upside, remember, if we do get the price holding above, then we could end up finding a very nice buying opportunity within that location. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening, but similar correlation, since it's happening on all these pairs, we'll definitely wait to see what ends up happening. So here we have the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So this pairs, or at least on this kind of pair, is a brand new entry on our watch list. And our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities on this. Now, the price looks as if it's attempting to break this area to the upside. And the reason why we're not necessarily putting the area much higher is because you can clearly see this is a very important level, even visible on the 1 hour. This is the high that the price has actually made or the pullback. So even though the price has come up very aggressive, remember, we need to get proper confirmation that the price is actually holding above an area for us to look for buying opportunities. Now you can see the price has been within this particular area before. You can see the highest point it's been, and it's still been able to come down. So just because it's done this, that doesn't necessarily confirm anything. We could end up trying to incite a few people to look for buys, because remember, most people were not looking for buying opportunities down here. Most people are trying to jump on their buys right now, and that's not necessarily the best thing. And where do you think most people would end up putting their stop loss? Chances are they would end up trying to hide their stop losses either within here, or if they think that the market will trying to be smart, they'll end up putting it here to try and guarantee that the trade won't be stopped out. But what would end up happening is the price actually ends up coming back in, stopping the first people out, actually coming all the way, stopping the next people out. And once these guys are stopped out, most people end up switching their bias and saying it's not a buy, it's a sell. And that's the sellers that we want to actually take. Because remember, in order for us to buy, we need sellers. So at that point in time, with the amount of more sellers that come in, we should end up having enough sellers to actually take the buy to the upside. So this is a game plan of what we'll be waiting for. The price could still go to the upside, especially due to the fact that the Australian dollar is showing strength and the New Zealand dollar is showing weakness. So most of the time, when sometimes that happens, you don't necessarily get much of a pullback. But this definitely will be the game plan that I will be waiting for, waiting to see if price can come down a bit lower before I'm able to look for those buys on this pair. So hope that's clear on all the New Zealand dollar pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched the New Zealand dollar with all the pairs on the buy side. So right now we're going to move on to the Swiss franc pairs and do the exact same thing. So we'll start off here with the US dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, this is a currency pair that we did have yesterday, so we're still going to be looking at today. So this is the trade it seems most people managed to grab. So very well done on that. So today, and you can see yesterday, the price started actually reacting from 10 o'clock, breaking this area to the upside. There was a small hold above within this area, as you can clearly see it illustrated here, and the price has managed to continue going up higher. So today, the bus is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. We're going to pretty much have the exact same areas that we did have yesterday. So these are the main areas that we will definitely be looking for buys or major support and resistance areas. We did have this blue support and resistance area based on the fact that on a higher time frame, this was a major SNR, and the fact that the price was holding within this area could end up giving us issues. And that still also applies to where the price is at now. You can see we're within an area where there are sellers who did push down lower, and the fact that they're holding here could end up, at least this is definitely an area that could give issues. So for us, or at least for right now, my game plan on this, definitely looking for another entry within here, potentially the price to come back within this location for me to look for buying opportunities. I'll definitely watch out for this area where the sellers have been reacting. However, if you're able to break this area to the upside, chances are it could, then should be ending up being able to target the price all the way at the top. But if that doesn't happen, these sellers are not able to actually give us more of a push to the downside, because you can see the fact that the first time the price is here, look at how far they came down. But this time, look at how much, or at least the strength they're trying to show. They're not really showing that much. So that's the reason why definitely we'll be seeing this level, at least it seems as if it has a high probability of being breached. But ideally, even if we break to the upside, the fact that we have this problem area wouldn't be a good idea to just look for buying opportunities right there. Ideally, the best thing to do is to wait for a breach and a hold for the level to the upside right there. Then at that point in time, should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So let's wait to see what ends up happening in this one, but the game plan is still the same. So moving on, yesterday we were, or at least yesterday we were looking at the British pound against the Swiss franc. Today, still the same thing. This is the trade idea that we actually ended up having during the snipers meeting. We were looking for buying opportunities, and I think Dan Pickett, we did manage to end up grabbing a buying opportunity. We wanted the price to come down a bit lower. Unfortunately, it could not, but we managed to at least grab the price a bit higher up. So today, the bias is definitely going to be looking for buys, and you can see the price looked as if it was breaking this area to the downside, gave us a very nice probe, and the price managed to continue going up. You can see when the price broke and held above this area, there could have been another potential buy just before 3 o'clock, as the price did manage to attempt to try and come up higher. So today, the bias is still going to be the same, looking for buying opportunities based on the same areas. So right now, the fact that we've broken this area to the upside, let's see if we can get a slightly more deeper pullback. The story that's happening on the US dollar against Swiss franc, it seems like we've approached an area where the price seems to be holding. It's within there or possibly within the support and resistance area. So the same thing would be for us to potentially wait to see if we can end up getting a pullback coming in, maybe giving us some sort of probe or price action signal within there for us to look for buying opportunities. Make sure to manage your trade within these locations, but ideally, we'll be looking to try and target this area to the upside. So remember, the price is able to actually go up higher and break this area to the upside and hold to the upside right there. That's when it should be safe to actually look for more buying opportunities on the British pound against the Swiss franc. So we're interested to see what ends up happening here, but definitely the buys will still be on. Whether or not we come back within this area, it even could end up coming back within a level a bit slightly lower, possibly within this particular location. So don't be surprised, or at least even if you're expecting the price all the way down here, could end up coming to one of these support and resistance areas where buyers did end up taking off from. So Hope that is clear as we move on to the next Swiss franc pair, which is the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out. So initially, the price actually ended up working out very nicely from 10 o'clock, managed to come down quite aggressively, but ended up approaching this bias area where we did end up getting a bit of issues. So we have not been able to actually break this area to the upside. You can see how many times the price has attempted to come down, keeps on breaking, going back to the upside. It comes down, goes back to the upside, and holds above. The fact that that's doing that is clearly showing that this support and resistance is still holding, and that just possibly means that we're definitely in a range. And if that's the case, well, most of you know the best place to look for a sell within a range is right there at the top of the range. Make sure you manage your trade within the bottom right there. But be aware, at least if this is the game plan, waiting to see if you can grab a selling opportunity right there. But if we do end up getting the price being able to come down, actually breaking and holding below the range, wait for that pullback within there. Once you get confirmation, then definitely that level would be broken and we should be coming down all the way to this next problem area. But for right now, let's work with the range. Let's wait for the price at the top of the range and see whether or not we could end up getting a price action signal or the price could be there within one of the market opening times. Remember, that's 10, 3, and 4:30. So hope that's clear on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen, what our game plan is looking at today. As we move on to the next Swiss franc pair we do have, which is the euro against the Swiss franc. Now, similar situation, this pair really worked out quite nicely. Seems that the Swiss franc pairs worked out quite nicely during the London session. So yesterday we're looking for buying opportunities, and you can see the price was within this buyer's area, and the price ended up taking off at exactly 10. That's when the price actually managed to go to the upside. You can see a similar situation as based on what I illustrated right here. Once the price broke to the upside, there was a pullback, confirming the price is actually holding above. So there was another buying opportunity that you could have taken, managing your trade right there at the top. So definitely going to be looking for buying opportunities today. But the fact that we're within an area where there are sellers, you can see the same correlation coming in with all these Swiss franc pairs, where they've all gone to the upside. They've approached an area where there are sellers, and right now we're just ranging. So there's one of two options. We need either a pullback where these sellers might actually start giving us more of a pullback, coming back within this support and resistance area for us to potentially look for buying opportunities there. Or if we're able to get the price actually breaking and holding above within this area, then there we should definitely be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on the euro against the Swiss franc. There's definitely some correlation coming in with these Swiss franc pairs. If you're able to get those prices breaching and holding above, or at least getting a pullback, definitely we'll be looking to trade these pairs today. So moving on to the last Swiss franc pair that we do have today. Here we have the Australian dollar against Swiss franc, brand new entry in our watch list. And overall, our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities. Even though you can see the price has been coming down, we are in the point of attempting to actually change structure. So we'll be focusing on these three levels, potentially look for these buying opportunities. So we have the aggressive buyers all the way down here at the bottom. So as long as we're holding above this support and resistance area, our bias is definitely going to be looking for buying opportunities. Right now, you can see we're within an area where sellers have pushed down multiple times, although they do seem to be struggling right now. So the main thing, and one thing you can realize, is how many times the buyers have attempted to break this area. You can see a probe right there, another probe. Right now, it could be a probe that's attempting, but even the way you can look at the way the buyers have come in, quite aggressive. Be interesting to see what ends up happening here. Although these wicks are not necessarily a good sign. If the buyers come in, you don't necessarily see them coming in with wicks. Wicks indicate a sign of pressure. And if you do end up noticing, whenever you see wicks there, you'll start seeing the market turning. So there's potential on this pair. We're definitely still going to be looking for buying opportunities, but we could end up finding those buys might be coming in a bit lower, coming in within, hopefully within this particular area for us to look for those buying opportunities. But be aware, if the price is able to actually hold above within this area, and you see the price holding up, then you should be able to look for buying opportunities as well on this pair, or at least as well above this particular area on the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So let's wait to see what ends up happening. Hopefully a pullback comes in, whether or not it comes down all the way to this area, or looks for a level where there are buyers. You can see this is an area where buyers have also reacted for multiple times. You can see similar situation, which is an area of support and resistance. So just because we're expecting the price to come down all the way there, remember this red line indicates that this is the last place we'll be looking for buys. So price can still come back within this area. Just watch out if it's within a buyer's area, within one of those allocated times, 10, 3, and 4:30, we could find some nice trading opportunities. So That's it for all the Swiss franc pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched the New Zealand dollar and the Swiss franc with the pairs on the buy side. So right now we're going to do the same thing with the Canadian dollar pairs. So we'll start off with the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. These are brand new entry on our watch list. And here our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see the strength coming in from the US dollar. Definitely going to be looking for buys here. And the good thing is we are starting to get a pullback coming in. So as usual, we're focusing on these three levels for potential buys. So right now, let's wait to see what ends up happening. The pullback has come in. It seems like we are attempting to approach here, but the sellers still seem a bit strong. So let's wait to see if we can potentially end up getting the price maybe coming in. Maybe we need to incite a few more people to look for sells before they are able to actually find the big boy buyers. If we do see a probe or price action signal within this area, we definitely will be looking for buying opportunities here. But for now, definitely we will be waiting for that pullback coming either within this support and resistance area. It can come down all the way to this main red SNR. If it does do that, we'll still be looking for buys, but only if it breaks and holds below this area will we make this pair, or at least we will not be looking at this pair anymore and it will fall off our watch list. So the next Canadian dollar pair we do have is the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Similar correlation coming in with the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. The price did end up going to the upside. We are starting to get a pullback, but the big boy buyers don't necessarily seem as if they've shown up just yet. So it seems the pullback is still on. So let's wait to see at what point in time the big boy buyers are actually going to show some interest. If it's within the support and resistance area, then better. But if it ends up coming all the way down here, that's still okay. Depends on how fast it comes. But ideally, remember, we need to make sure we manage our trade within these problem areas. But for right now, since there seems to be some correlation coming in with these Canadian dollar pairs, we'll be interested to see what ends up happening on them. So we'll move on to the next Canadian dollar pair, which is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. Now, remember here, the Canadian dollar is the base currency. So that's the reason why we'll definitely be looking for those sells right there. So these will be the levels that we'll be focusing on to ideally look for those selling opportunities. Right now, you can see similar situation. The price has actually started pulling back. We seem to be attempting to break this area to the upside. But remember, we need to incite people to start looking for buys. So as soon as price breaks to the upside, guaranteed there are very many breakout traders that could end up reacting within that area. But ideally, if we do see the price coming in and holding below, we will be looking for selling opportunities. Now, if it does end up holding to the upside, then chances are we could end up still coming back all the way till this main seller there, right there at the top, before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. So we'll be interested to see what ends up happening on this. But remember, the yen pairs are very much correlated. So if you look at the other yen pairs, let's go to the Swiss franc against the yen. If you do see something similar coming in with within most of these pairs, then you could end up finding some trading opportunities there. But for now, let's wait to see what ends up happening, whether or not this is a probe or a real breach. If it's a real breach, we'll wait for the price up a bit higher for us to look for selling opportunities there. So moving on to the next Canadian dollar pair we do have, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. Brand new entry on our watch list. In this situation, our bias is to look for buying opportunities on this pair. So overall, we'll be focusing on these three areas to potentially look for those buying opportunities. You can see we're at the highest point there where the price has really struggled to actually break above. So the fact is we need a pullback, and you can clearly see the situations which show you that the fact is the price ended up coming back to this area, has attempted to go up, but not been able to break this area. It just means that this price is not necessarily good enough. So if it's not good enough, we need a better price. And that's the reason why a lot of times we keep on pointing out probes end up going to get that better price. It incites a few more people to buy. Same time, it incites so many people to start looking for sells. And that's exactly what we need to actually look for, those buying opportunities. So we're waiting to see whether or not we could end up getting a pullback in one of these areas for us to look for those buying opportunities on the euro against the Canadian dollar. So I hope the game plan is clear on what we're looking at on that pair. As we move on to the next currency pair we do have, right here we have the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. Now, funny enough, yesterday we did have this on our currency pair, or at least on our watch list. And yesterday we were looking for selling opportunities. Now, unfortunately, the sales did not work out. Remember, these Australian dollar pairs, it seems that the pullbacks just kept on coming in throughout the whole day. But the fact that the buyers have switched for both the Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar. Yesterday we're looking for sales, but today we can actually look for buying opportunities. So the same areas, due to the fact that the market is still respecting the same areas, we'll definitely still be looking for those buying opportunities. At least we will start looking for buying opportunities on this kind of pair today. So watching out for these three areas. And you can see that Australian dollar strength that has started to show up. Right now, we are starting to get a pullback. It will be interesting to see what ends up happening, especially if we do see the price holding and showing us evidence that the price is actually holding above this area. There might be a very interesting buy within this location. There is definitely caution just based on how these wicks right here at the top, because it looks as if the price went all the way to the top. But if you think about it, this is that high that the price ended up pushing down from. And you can clearly see this market has not actually been able to break that level. So it's very important to know where the true support and resistance levels are, because you can clearly see it's definitely an area of support and resistance that the price is definitely still holding. So if we're able to grab a buying opportunity within this area, make sure you do some sort of small trade management. Doesn't mean you have to close your trade, possibly move your stop loss up a bit higher to at least reduce your risk. Ideally, you can manage your trade in very many ways. But overall, if this price is able to actually go to the upside, we see it breaking and holding above, we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So I hope that's clear, at least on the game plan of the current pairs that we're looking at. You can see we've mixed and matched all the pairs on the sell side with the pairs on the buy side. So right now we're going to have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So we'll start off with the NASDAQ, the NAS 100. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Technically, it still is the same. You can see the area that we had pointed out. So even though we have the areas highlighted here, I remember pointing out that we did have a support and resistance area. So this, right? We did have an area where the buyers seem to have been reacting from the day before, and did mention that just because we're all the way down here, chances are we might end up getting this pullback reacting from this location. And you can see it did do that. Wanted to see whether or not we could end up getting some sort of probe or price action signal. And the price was there within 3 o'clock, but it managed to actually break to the upside. It was holding above, or at least it confirmed it held above at 4:30. And you can see the price has managed to go all the way till the top. Now, you will realize that, remember, we keep on pointing out, we mentioned that as long as you're holding above or below the red support and resistance area, indicates whether or not you're buying or selling, especially when we're dealing with the indices. Now, the reason why we're still looking for sales is because this has not yet fully broken. You can see it went to the upside, and on the pullback, it never held above, it came straight back in. So that's the reason why there's a pair that we're still going to be looking for sales. If it does end up breaking this area to the upside, a strong break, and you find it actually holding above, that's when we'll actually switch our bias and start looking for buys. But as long as we're holding below, chances are the fact that this is a probe, we could end up getting the market coming in within this area. We see it holding below, we should be able to look for selling opportunities on this kind of pair. Now, remember, if I do end up going, we'll just quickly go to a higher time frame so you can see the overall story as to why we're looking at these levels. Because if you look at it on the 1 hour time frame, we're definitely within a major range right here. You can see the 3 levels, and you can see how far the market is able to probe within this location and still been able to come down. Remember, I did point out when the market ranges, you find a lot of probes happening. So the price going up here does not guarantee that that price, the range has actually been broken, because you can see it happening many times. We need a proper confirmation where the price goes above and actually holds. So waiting to see what ends up happening, and the fact that we're still within a range, we still end up respecting. Right now, we're at the top of the range right here. The best place to look for the sells. If we're able to grab a selling opportunity there, we should be able to manage our trade within our first problem area. But technically speaking, we should be able to come down all the way till our low, at least the bottom of the range. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening on the NAS 100. But definitely we'll be looking for selling opportunities for now. But remember, the price breaks and holds above, we will be looking for buying opportunities. And this is something similar that happened yesterday on silver, but we'll end up having a look at that as well. So the Dow Jones, the next pair that we'll be looking at, and yesterday and today, our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. There was a small sell that did end up working yesterday that was based on these 3 areas. You can see initially during the London session, we were within this bias area. We did end up getting a pullback, coming back within this location. At 3 o'clock, the price wasn't really there, but you can see it ended up pulling back all the way to this location, giving us a nice probe, and the price took off at exactly 4:30. It seems it was just one candle, a sell from there, all the way to the bottom. If you do not manage the trade down there, you can easily see. If you don't manage your trade within these problem areas, anyone who entered a sell there, even if their stop loss is just here, would have easily been stopped out. So you do not want such things to end up happening. Yet you are still correct with the trade. So remember, it's not about being correct or wrong in the markets. It's okay to be wrong. The main point is, can you actually end up making money? So that's the whole point that we're actually looking at here. So overall, buyers is definitely going to still be looking for sales. You can see the price went to the upside, not a convincing breach to the upside, has come back in, but potentially still holding to the downside. So let's wait to see if the London big boy is actually going to be able to bring this price down lower. So if we do end up either getting a small pullback before we're able to look for selling opportunities there, but if the price goes to the upside and falls above this area, chances are we'll still be looking for selling opportunities as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area. So we'll watch out for that. Chances are also be aware we could potentially be in some sort of range. So if you're looking for a sell there, do make sure you manage your trade within this buyer's area. You can clearly see that's the reason why we point them out. And we call them problem areas because we do not want to go through those problems. So hope that is clear as we move on to the next pair that we do have, which is silver. Now on silver, yesterday our bias was to look for buying opportunities. But remember, I had pointed out that we're within an area of interest where if the price did end up coming back in and holding above, we will be looking for buys. But if it came back and held below, then at that point in time, we'll be looking for sells. And if you look at the story of what exactly ended up happening yesterday, just looking at how the price ended up reacting within this location, the price initially when we were discussing the market, the price was all the way down here. Remember, we had seen the first time the price had come all the way down towards this level and still been able to go up. We did not get the price actually holding below. Similar situation when the price came down, it looks as if it was attempting to hold below, but it came straight back up. So that wasn't a real breach just yet. But when the price came down, it never held above. It actually ended up coming down. So this ended up actually showing us that it could be breaking to the downside. What confirmed to us was when the price pulled back, you can clearly see the price was actually holding below that area. And if you do take note of the timings that we always mention, 10:03 and 4:30, that the price is there at exactly 4:30. And once that was done, you did manage to grab a very nice, you could have actually looked for a selling opportunity at that time because that confirmed that this level had actually been broken to the downside. And you can see the movement that did end up happening. So today, the fact that we've reached this area to the downside, we will be looking for selling opportunities on silver. So we'll be focusing on these three areas to look for potential sells. Aggressive sellers right there at the top. So right now, as long as we're holding below this red SNR, our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. If the price breaks and holds above this red SNR, then at that point in time, we will start looking for buying opportunities on silver. So right now, the price has come down. We're getting a pullback coming in. Buyers still seem as if they're a bit strong. So maybe this level might not necessarily hold. As you can see, this same level that we did have yesterday, the price could also potentially pull back to such a location. So we'll wait to see whether or not the price actually ends up closing within this area for us to look for a sell. It might end up just coming here. It could end up just bouncing all the way to this particular area. But if it comes back in and holds below, then definitely we should be able to still look for selling opportunities on silver. So we'll be interested to see how this pullback actually ends up coming in. So hope that's clear on our game plan for silver as we move on to the last pair that we do have, which is gold. Now, gold, yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today. We can see some similar correlation that did end up happening as well with silver. When we did look as if we were attempting to break this area to the downside, similar story right here around 9:30 or so, the price was within this location. We wanted to see a proper hold to the downside. We did not necessarily get that, especially the way the buyers came up. Seems the market ended up being able to pull back all the way into the area that we had within this particular location. You can see at around 3 o'clock, the market ended up giving us a very nice probe, especially if you do end up looking at it on a smaller time frame. Smaller time frames do end up giving you a bit more detail, especially within such locations of what did end up happening. And you can see very nicely, the price ended up bouncing within this area, giving us a nice probe. And what happened after that probe, you can clearly see the price ended up giving us a very nice pullback, confirming that that price is actually holding below before it actually took off. And remember, we always point out those market opening times, 10:03 and 4:30. So around 4:30 was a bit later on, but I guess in this situation, the market ended up starting to move a bit earlier. But still, there was a small opportunity at 4:30 as well, especially once it did break this area to the downside, the price was holding below. But ideally, those are concepts we do end up teaching in the AMP course. So today, Buyers is going to be looking for sales. The sales did work out very nicely during the US session. Remember, gold is very active during the US session. So today, the buyers is definitely going to be looking for sales. So we'll focus on these three areas. Aggressive sellers all the way at the top, or at least as long as we're holding below this red SNR, buyers is going to be looking for selling opportunities. You can see right now the price is coming down lower. Ideally, this is not the best place to look for your sales. Right now, due to the fact that we're within a buyer's area, definitely not. So one of two things can happen, either a breach to the downside. And remember, a pullback needs to come in and show us confirmation that that level has actually been broken for us to look for those selling opportunities. If not, due to the fact that we're within a buyer's area, I won't be surprised that the price actually comes up a bit higher, gets a better price than this right there, and before we're able to actually go to the downside. Maybe it needs to incite a few more people, start looking for sales. All those late sellers, people are not selling here. They're all selling here. Where are most of them putting their stop losses? Even if they're trying to hide them, guaranteed within that level. So chances are the price is going to come back all the way there, maybe stop people out. A few people start buying, especially when it probes. Once there are enough buyers and we do see the big boy sellers come in, then we should be able to look for selling opportunities, especially if we do end up getting a nice breach and hold. So you can see this illustration is definitely something that you see repeatedly over in the charts. So that's the game plan for gold. I guess that is it for all the currency pairs. So this is our watch list for today. Don't necessarily think there's going to be much of a change because you can see today there's not necessarily much news. We do have a number of speeches that are coming out. There's oil news later on during the US session. So there could still be activity, but not necessarily as much as I think they could. But remember, usually when there's a lot of fundamentals, it incites more people to actually jump into the market, which increases volatility. So the more money that's there, the more opportunities we have to make. So when there's not necessarily that much news, the markets can still move, but the probability of them really moving, since there are less people in the charts at that time. So I guess that is it. So I can be able to address any question on the Q&A section. And a quick announcement, tomorrow being a holiday, there will be no webinar tomorrow, but do make sure you are in the Telegram channel because we will still end up doing the analysis because I mean the markets are not closed, it's just only a holiday here in Kenya. So we'll end up looking at a number of pairs, giving you guys the watch list, as well as giving also a few screenshots on some pairs, and at least giving some levels as well. So do make sure you are in the Telegram channel. There should be a link for that in the chat box. So I'm seeing Patricia Mangi is saying, hi Mitch, please display Dow Jones again. Thanks. Karibu sana, and glad to see you here, Patricia. So on the Dow Jones, here we go. We're going to be looking for selling opportunities, and these will be the areas that we will be focusing on. So aggressive sales right there at the top. Right now, this is a probe. Let's wait to see. The sellers haven't really become very aggressive. So we'll definitely be still interested to look to see what ends up happening within this location, right? So I hope that's clear for you, Patricia. And I'm seeing Caroline Chege. Glad to see you here. You're asking to display silver. So silver, this is the game plan. Right now, we're putting a pullback. Ideally, not necessarily very convinced about this. We'll wait to see whether or not we could get a deeper pullback there, or if the price ends up coming and maybe ranging, could end up finding a sell. But look and compare how the buyers have come up, the sellers are pushing down, the buyers have come up, even though the sellers have come down, the buyers went up with one candle, the sellers have taken 3 or 4. So those I don't think are the big boy sellers. That's the reason why I'm thinking the price might need to still give a deeper pullback. This might just be something to incite people to look for sales now, not realizing that you're selling within an area where buyers are. You can see this is an area buyers have reacted from before many times. So selling at a buyer's area is a no-no here in Afriforex. So hope that is clear for you, Caroline. So seeing Ivy Wanyama, you're saying, hi Mitch, thanks so much. Karibu sana, Ivy, and glad to see your screenshot here as well. Keep up the good work that you're doing. So, and keep them coming, ideally, right? You will definitely be seeing that improvement. So Karibu sana. Daniel Smith, Dan Pickett saying thank you, Mitch, and before it seemed Karibu sana, Dan, and I know we'll end up seeing you later on today as we're looking for trading opportunities later. So glad to see you here. And I'm seeing Machin Masiki saying, hi, Mitch, kindly display the NAS 100. Hi, Machin, I hope you're well. And I know you do love trading the NAS 100. So this is what we'll be looking for. The levels are pretty much the same as yesterday. We're in an overall big range. So remember, based on the 1 hour time frame, we're in a big range. So that's the reason why we're still focusing on those same levels. Right now, at the top of the range, we could potentially have gotten a sort of probe. If the price comes in and holds below, we could end up getting the price coming down lower. So we'll definitely be watching out for that. But if the price breaks and holds above, then at that point in time, we'll be looking for buys. So right now, it's a similar situation to what happened yesterday with silver. The confirmation of a break does indicate whether or not we're actually going to look for buys or sells, right? So I hope that is clear for you. I know, Machine, you do know what you should be looking for here as well. So I'm not seeing any more questions, which is okay. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. Remember, tomorrow we will not be here, but ideally we will still end up displaying and giving you guys as much value as possible. So do make sure you are in the Telegram channel for that. There's a link right there in the chat box. So once again, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have an amazing trading day, a great holiday as well tomorrow, since I guess it will probably be a break. And I guess we'll see you guys on Friday. Happy trading, guys. God bless and bye for now. Cheers.